Welcome to the Deep Sleep Science channel. Tonight, we're going to take a gentle journey through one of the most fascinating things you will ever encounter: the human body. Quietly, every second of your life, trillions of cells are working together, moving, repairing, signaling, and sustaining the life you live without you even noticing. In this video, we'll explore calm, interesting facts about how the body functions, from the silent rhythm of the heart to the invisible chemistry inside every cell. As you listen, you may begin to realize just how steady and remarkable this living system truly is. Before we begin, if you enjoy relaxing science like this, you can gently tap the like button, subscribe to the channel, or leave a comment for the topic you'd like to fall asleep to next. Now, settle in, relax your mind, and let's begin exploring the quiet science of the human body. The brain is the most complex part of the human body. Even though it sits quietly inside the skull, it is constantly helping organize thoughts, movement, memory, sensation, emotion, and countless automatic functions that keep life going. It does not work like a simple switchboard with a few wires. It is more like an enormously active control center, always receiving information, sorting it, responding to it, and shaping the way a person experiences the world from moment to moment. The human body contains trillions of cells. Each one is tiny, beyond ordinary imagination. Yet together they build tissues, organs, and systems that allow the body to live and function. When people think of the body, they often picture large, visible parts like the hands, eyes, or face. But underneath all of that is a vast population of microscopic living units. The scale is astonishing, because what feels like one single body is really a whole community of cells working together with constant coordination. The human body is best understood as a network of cooperating systems rather than a collection of isolated organs. No organ truly works alone for very long. The heart depends on the lungs depend on the nervous system, the kidneys depend on circulation, and the muscles depend on signals, energy, and oxygen. Looking at the body this way helps explain why health and function are so interconnected. It is less like a box of separate tools and more like a living city, where every department is linked to the others. The human body is not a static object. It is an active, self-regulating system continuously sensing, adjusting, transporting, repairing, and responding. Even in stillness, it is busy. Blood keeps moving, hormones keep signaling, cells keep repairing damage, and organs keep balancing the internal environment. What seems quiet from the outside is usually full of activity within. The body is always making tiny changes to keep itself stable, and that quiet adaptability is one of its most impressive features. A useful way to think about the human body is as a living partnership of barriers, signals, pumps, filters, sensors, and builders, all working at once. The skin acts as a barrier, the nerves carry signals, the heart pumps, the kidneys filter, the senses gather information, and the cells build and rebuild tissues. This way of looking at the body makes it easier to understand how many different jobs are happening at the same time. Life depends not on one heroic organ, but on many forms of cooperation happening continuously. The skin is the body's largest organ and covers the entire external surface. Because it wraps around the whole body, it is easy to overlook just how important it is. Skin is not only an outer covering. It is an organ with structure, function, and constant activity. It protects deeper tissues, helps the body respond to the environment, and forms the visible boundary between the inside of the body and the outside world. The nervous system allows the body to react to the environment in fractions of a second. A sudden sound, a bright light, a sharp object, or a change in temperature can all lead to extremely fast responses. This speed is possible because the body uses electrical and chemical signaling to move information quickly from one place to another. What feels immediate is the result of an impressive communication system that is always prepared to notice change and respond. The body uses both rapid nerve signals and slower hormonal signals to stay coordinated. Nerves are useful for quick communication, such as moving a hand away from heat or adjusting pupil size in bright light. Hormones, by contrast, often help manage broader changes that take more time, such as growth, metabolism, or stress responses. The body needs both forms of communication because some situations require instant action, while others require slower, lasting regulation. The heart is a muscular pump that keeps blood moving through the lungs and body. This simple description hides how essential the heart is. By squeezing in a steady rhythm, it sends blood to pick up oxygen, deliver nutrients, remove wastes, and support the work of every organ. Without constant circulation, tissues would very quickly lose the supplies they need. The heart's role is so central that nearly every part of the body depends on its steady performance. The heart and lungs work as a linked system because circulation and breathing depend on each other. The lungs bring oxygen into the body and release carbon dioxide, while the heart moves blood so those gases can be exchanged where needed. If one system stops working well, the other immediately feels the strain. This partnership is one of the clearest examples of how the body's organs are separate in shape but deeply connected in function. The lungs are built for gas exchange between air and blood. They are not simply empty bags that fill and empty. Their structure is specialized so that oxygen from inhaled air can enter the bloodstream and carbon dioxide from the blood can leave the body. This exchange is essential because cells need oxygen for energy-related processes, and they must also get rid of carbon dioxide produced during metabolism. Breathing, then, is part of a larger and very elegant exchange system. Tiny air sacs called alveoli sit next to capillaries in the lungs. This arrangement matters because it brings air and blood extremely close together, which makes gas exchange possible. The alveoli are delicate, thin-walled spaces built for this exact purpose, while capillaries are tiny blood vessels designed for exchange. Their closeness is not accidental. It reflects how body tissues are shaped by function, with structure carefully suited to what the tissue needs to do. Oxygen moves from the air in the alveoli into the blood. This happens because the body has created an exchange surface where oxygen can pass into nearby capillaries and then be carried throughout the body by red blood cells. Once in the bloodstream, oxygen becomes part of the body's transport system and is delivered to tissues that need it. A quiet breath can seem simple, but it supports one of the most essential movements of matter in the entire body. Carbon dioxide moves from the blood into the air inside the alveoli. This is the other half of the exchange that keeps internal chemistry stable. Cells constantly produce carbon dioxide as a normal waste product of metabolism, and it must be removed so the body can maintain balance. The lungs provide a place for that removal to happen. So every exhale is not just air leaving the chest. It is part of the body's ongoing effort to regulate itself. The kidneys filter about a half cup of blood every minute when they are healthy. That steady rate gives some idea of how active they are, even though most people rarely think about them. The kidneys are not waiting around for special moments to work. They are constantly examining blood, removing wastes, adjusting water balance, and helping keep internal chemistry within usable ranges. Their quiet consistency is one of the most important background tasks in the body. Over the course of a day, the kidneys filter roughly 120 to 150 quarts of blood. That number sounds surprisingly large, and it reveals how much continuous maintenance the body requires. The kidneys do not simply create urine in a simple, direct way. They repeatedly process the blood, separating what should be kept from what should be removed. This enormous filtering effort helps protect nerves, muscles, blood chemistry, and fluid balance hour after hour. Humans have 23 pairs of chromosomes in almost every cell. These chromosomes contain the organized genetic material that helps guide how the body is built and maintained. They are not scattered randomly inside cells. They are packaged and carried in a way that allows inheritance, cell division, and biological function to continue across a lifetime. This arrangement is one of the core structural features of human cells. DNA carries the instructions used to build and maintain the body. It is not a blueprint in the ordinary sense, but it does contain the information cells use to make functional products and carry out specialized tasks. The remarkable part is that such instruction-bearing material can exist inside microscopic cells and yet influence body-wide features and processes. From growth to repair to routine maintenance, DNA is part of the deep informational foundation of human life. The microbiome is the collection of microbes that live in and on the body. This means the human body is not only human tissue. It is also home to vast communities of microscopic life. These microbes can be found on the skin, in the digestive tract, and in other body regions. Thinking about the body this way expands the picture of what a person is biologically. The body is both an individual organism and an environment. Modern estimates suggest the body has about as many bacterial cells as human cells. This idea surprises many people because it changes the scale of how we picture the body. It does not mean the body is mostly bacteria by weight, but it does show how closely human life is intertwined with microbial life. The body is, in a sense, a living partnership that includes both human cells and countless helpful or neutral microbial companions. Even with similar cell counts, bacterial cells make up only a small fraction of total body mass. This is a useful reminder that number and size are not the same thing. Bacterial cells are generally much smaller than human cells, so they can be extremely numerous without contributing much weight. This contrast helps explain how the body can host an enormous microbial population while still remaining overwhelmingly made of human tissues in terms of size and mass. The musculoskeletal system includes bones, muscles, tendons, ligaments, joints, and cartilage. Together, these parts give the body support, shape, movement, and stability. When people think about movement, they often imagine muscles alone, but movement depends on many structures working together. Bones provide the framework, joints allow motion, cartilage cushions contact, tendons connect muscle to bone, and ligaments help hold joints steady. It is a system built for coordinated action rather than isolated effort. The skeleton provides support, but muscles are what move the skeleton. Bones create a framework that gives the body structure, yet by themselves, bones do not create motion. Muscles pawn bones through tendons, and that pulling action produces movement. This relationship is one reason anatomy is so interconnected. One part provides shape and leverage, while another provides force. Motion only becomes possible when both roles are present. Bones are not inert structures. They are living tissues that are constantly being remodeled. Many people think of bone as something rigid and lifeless, but bone tissue is active. It is maintained, repaired, and reshaped over time. This living quality helps the skeleton respond to the body's needs and maintain its strength. So even something that feels solid and unchanging is actually part of the body's ongoing cycle of renewal. Joints are the places where bones connect to one another. They are essential because they make movement possible within a structured skeleton. Without joints, the body would have support, but very little flexibility. Different joints are built for different kinds of motion, and their design influences what movements each part of the body can perform. In that sense, joints are not just meeting points. They are carefully shaped places where structure and motion come together. Tendons connect muscle to bone. This connection allows muscular force to be transferred to the skeleton so movement can happen. When a muscle contracts, it usually does not pull directly on a bone with its soft tissue alone. Instead, the tendon serves as the strong connector that passes, that pull along. It is a simple relationship to describe, but it is fundamental to everything from walking to writing. Ligaments connect bone to bone and help stabilize joints. Their job is not mainly to create movement, but to guide and support it. They help keep joints from moving in ways that would be unsafe or inefficient. This makes them important for both motion and protection. A stable joint is not a rigid one. It is a joint that can move as intended while staying well organized. Cartilage cushions joints and helps bones move more smoothly against each other. This protective tissue reduces friction and softens the contact between hard surfaces. Without it, movement would be rougher and joint surfaces would experience much more wear. Cartilage shows how the body often solves mechanical problems with specialized tissue rather than simple thickness or hardness. It creates smoother motion by being well suited to the job. The three types of muscle tissue are skeletal, cardiac, and smooth muscle. These categories remind us that not all muscle is built for the same purpose. Skeletal muscle helps produce voluntary movement, cardiac muscle powers the heart, and smooth muscle supports functions inside organs and vessels. The body uses the general idea of muscle, which is contraction, in several different ways depending on what the tissue needs to accomplish. Cardiac muscle is found in the walls of the heart and contracts automatically. Unlike the muscles used to move an arm or leg, cardiac muscle does not need conscious instructions for each contraction. It is built for non-stop rhythmic work. This makes it different not only in location, but in behavior. The heart can continue pumping during sleep, focus, and distraction because its muscle tissue is specialized for continuous automatic activity. Smooth muscle is found in structures such as the intestines and blood vessels, where it helps move substances and control diameter. It does not produce the large visible movements associated with the limbs, yet its role is essential. In the digestive tract, it helps move food forward. In blood vessels, it helps regulate the width of the vessel and therefore influences blood flow. These quiet actions are easy to miss, but they are part of daily survival. The brain weighs about 3 pounds in an adult, yet this relatively small organ supports an extraordinary range of functions. It helps manage movement, sensation, memory, emotion, interpretation, planning, and countless automatic processes. Its physical size does not fully suggest its functional importance. A modest amount of tissue, carefully organized, is able to shape every conscious experience and much of what happens unconsciously as well. Sensations, movements, memories, and emotions depend on signals passing through neurons. These specialized cells form communication pathways that let information travel from place to place. When you feel warmth, remember a voice, move a finger, or react emotionally, neurons are involved in carrying and processing the needed signals. This shows how much of human experience depends on communication at the cellular level. Neurons are specialized cells that send messages throughout the body. They differ from many other cells because their job is communication. Some carry sensory information toward the brain, some carry commands outward, and others help process information within the nervous system itself. Their design makes them especially suited for signaling, and their activity helps connect distant parts of the body into one coordinated whole. A neuron typically has 3 main parts: a cell body, dendrites, and an axon. The cell body contains essential structures for the cell's life. Dendrites help receive information, and the axon helps carry signals onward. This basic design supports the neuron's role as a messenger. Even at the level of one cell, structure and function are tightly linked. The nervous system includes the brain, spinal cord, and nerves throughout the body. This broad system allows information to be gathered, carried, interpreted, and answered. It helps connect sensation with action and internal monitoring with outward response. Rather than being located in one single place, the nervous system extends across the body, linking many regions into one responsive network. The spinal cord carries signals between the brain and the rest of the body. It is a major communication route, helping information move upward and downward. Sensory messages can travel toward the brain, while motor instructions can travel away from it. Because of this central role, disruption to the spinal cord can affect body regions below the injury by interrupting the usual flow of information. Peripheral nerves carry sensory information toward the brain and motor commands away from it. They extend beyond the brain and spinal cord into the rest of the body, helping create a practical connection between central control and distant tissues. These nerves make it possible for the body to feel, move, and regulate many functions outside the central nervous system itself. The eye works by capturing light and turning it into nerve signals that the brain can interpret. This means vision is not simply a matter of light entering the eye. It is a process that begins with physical light and ends with brain-based interpretation. The eye gathers and begins processing the information, but what we call seeing depends on the entire visual system working together. The retina is a light-sensitive tissue lining the back of the eye. It is one of the most specialized tissues in the body because it begins the conversion of light into electrical signals. In a sense, it is where incoming light first becomes usable biological information. That makes the retina essential not only for sight, but for the very first stage of visual perception. The optic nerve carries visual information from the retina to the brain. Once the retina has begun converting light into signals, those signals must still be delivered for further processing. The optic nerve serves as that crucial pathway. Without it, the eye could gather information, but the brain would not receive the message in the usual way needed for vision. The eye and brain operate as a single visual system rather than separate systems. The eye is the entry point for light, but the brain interprets what that light means. This is why visual experience depends on both healthy eye structures and intact processing pathways. Seeing is not produced by one organ alone. It is a collaboration between detection and interpretation. Hearing depends on the body's ability to detect vibrations and convert them into nerve signals. Sound in the environment becomes meaningful only because the body can sense these vibrations and translate them into information the nervous system can use. Like vision, hearing begins with a physical event and becomes a biological signal. The result is a sensory experience that feels effortless, even though it depends on precise structures and processes. Balance is closely linked to structures in the inner ear. This means the ear is not only involved in hearing, it also helps the body understand position and motion. Staying upright, adjusting to movement, and maintaining orientation all rely in part on these inner ear structures. This dual role makes the ear a very elegant example of one organ serving more than one major function. Smell and taste are chemical senses, meaning they detect molecules rather than light or pressure. This sets them apart from senses like vision and touch. Instead of responding mainly to waves of light or physical force, they respond to specific substances. These senses help the body gather information about food, the environment, and potential hazards in a way that depends on chemistry rather than mechanics. The mouth contains hundreds of different types of bacteria. This makes the mouth a busy microbial environment rather than a sterile space. Some of these microbes are harmless, some are helpful, and some can contribute to disease under certain conditions. The mouth is therefore not just a passage for food and air. It is also an ecosystem shaped by moisture, surfaces, diet, saliva, and daily habits. Blood contains red blood cells, white blood cells, platelets, and plasma. Each part has a different role, and together they allow blood to transport substances, support immunity, and help with clotting. Plasma provides the fluid background, red blood cells carry oxygen, white blood cells contribute to defense, and platelets help begin repair after injury. Blood is not one simple liquid. It is a carefully organized moving tissue. Red blood cells carry oxygen through the body using hemoglobin. This allows oxygen taken in by the lungs to be delivered to tissues that need it. The body depends on this transport because oxygen must reach cells throughout the entire body, not just those near the lungs. Red blood cells make that possible by serving as carriers in the circulation. White blood cells are important parts of the immune system. They help the body detect, respond to, and manage potential threats. Unlike red blood cells, which are mainly focused on gas transport, white blood cells participate in defense. Their presence in the bloodstream reflects the fact that the body is always prepared to respond to challenges, even when no illness is obvious from the outside. The endocrine system uses hormones to coordinate functions across the body. Hormones are chemical messengers that travel through the bloodstream and influence target tissues that can respond to them. This allows the body to regulate growth, energy use, mood, and many other processes in a way that reaches far beyond one local area. Endocrine signaling is slower than many nerve signals, but it is powerful and wide-reaching. Human cells contain chromosomes made of DNA and proteins. These structures organize genetic material inside cells in a way that supports storage, copying, and inheritance. Without this organized packaging, it would be much harder for cells to manage the information needed for life. Chromosomes are one of the fundamental ways the body keeps its biological instructions structured and usable. The body maintains life through constant communication among cells, tissues, organs, chemicals, and electrical signals. No single level of the body works in isolation for long. Cells communicate locally, organs exchange resources through blood, nerves carry fast signals, and hormones help shape broader changes over time. Life depends on these layers of communication remaining active and coordinated. Nearly every fact about the human body leads back to one theme. Structure and function are tightly linked. The shape of a tissue, the arrangement of a cell, the design of an organ, and the path of a vessel all help explain what that part can do. Thin tissues exchange, hard tissues protect, contractile tissues move, and signaling tissues communicate. Again and again, the body shows that how something is built is deeply connected to what it is meant to do. Human skin has three main layers: the epidermis, dermis, and hypodermis. The epidermis is the outer layer, and it is the part we usually think of as skin when we look at the body. Beneath that is the dermis, which contains many important structures such as nerves, blood vessels, and supportive fibers. Deeper still is the hypodermis, which helps with cushioning, insulation, and attachment to tissues below. These layers work together, and each has its own role in protection, sensation, and support. One major job of skin is to act as a first barrier against pathogens, chemicals, and mechanical injury. In very simple terms, skin stands at the boundary between the inside of the body and the outside world. It helps block harmful microbes from entering, reduces the chance that chemicals will penetrate deeply, and helps absorb or resist the small physical stresses of daily life. Because the body is constantly exposed to the outside environment, this barrier role is one of the most important jobs skin performs every single day. Skin also helps regulate body temperature and limit water loss. When the environment changes, the body needs ways to keep its internal conditions steady, and skin is part of that process. It helps manage heat exchange with the outside world and reduces the amount of water that escapes from the body. Without that control, the body would have a much harder time maintaining the stable internal conditions needed for cells and organs to function well. The upper limb contains 30 bones from the shoulder to the fingers. This large number helps explain why the arm and hand can perform such a wide range of movements, from lifting and pushing to gripping and writing. The bones are arranged in a way that gives both strength and precision. What seems like one continuous limb is actually a highly organized structure made of many pieces working together through joints, muscles, tendons, and nerves. Skeletal muscles attach to bones and help produce voluntary movement. These are the muscles people usually think of when they imagine movement, because they are involved in actions such as walking, turning the head, raising the arms, or standing up. They work by contracting and pulling on bones through tendons. The word voluntary means that many of these movements can be consciously controlled, which makes skeletal muscle essential for everyday motion and posture. Skeletal muscle fibers look striped under a microscope, which is why they are called striated. This striped appearance is not just a visual detail. It reflects the organized internal structure of the muscle fibers and the way the contractile machinery is arranged inside them. That organized structure helps the muscle produce force in a coordinated way. So even the microscopic appearance of muscle gives clues about how it works. The cornea is the clear, dome-shaped front surface of the eye, and light passes through it first. Because it is transparent, it allows light to enter the eye instead of blocking it. It also forms the front boundary of the eye and plays a major role in visual clarity. The cornea has to balance openness to light with physical protection, which makes it one of the most specialized transparent tissues in the body. The cornea bends incoming light to help focus it. Light does not simply travel straight through the eye unchanged. It must be directed properly so that a clear image can form. The cornea does much of the early bending work needed to guide light inward. This means that a large part of focusing starts right at the front of the eye, before the light ever reaches deeper structures. The iris is the colored part of the eye. Eye color is one of the most noticeable visible traits in many people, but the iris does much more than provide color. It is part of the eye's system for controlling how much light enters. In that way, something that seems decorative at first glance is actually a functional part of vision, helping manage the eye's exposure to changing light levels. The pupil is the opening in the center of the iris. It may look like a black circle, but it is not a solid structure. It is an opening through which light travels deeper into the eye. The pupil's size changes depending on conditions, and that change helps the eye manage brightness. So, what looks like a dark spot is really part of a dynamic control system. The iris changes pupil size to control how much light enters the eye. In bright settings, the pupil can become smaller, and in dim settings, it can become larger. This helps protect the eye from excessive light, and also helps vision in low light. It is an elegant example of the body adjusting automatically to the environment without needing conscious effort. Behind the pupil, the lens further focuses light onto the retina. While the cornea begins the focusing process, the lens refines it. This is especially important when looking at objects at different distances. The lens helps the visual system stay adaptable, making it possible to shift focus from something near to something far. It adds another layer of precision to the way the eye handles incoming light. The sclera is the tough white outer coat of the eye. It provides structure and protection, helping the eye keep its shape. Although it is less discussed than the cornea or retina, it plays a very important supportive role. The eye needs both delicate, light-sensitive tissues and strong outer structures, and the sclera is part of that balance between sensitivity and protection. Reported changes in taste become more common with age. Taste is not a fixed experience across the whole lifespan. As people grow older, the way flavors are sensed can change. These changes can affect appetite, food enjoyment, and how strongly certain tastes are noticed. It is a reminder that the senses can shift over time, even when those changes happen slowly and gradually. Altered taste can be influenced by dry mouth, facial injury, or prolonged illness. Taste depends on more than just the tongue alone. It is shaped by saliva, nerves, and the overall condition of the body. If saliva is reduced, if facial nerves are affected, or if the body is under stress from illness, taste can change. This shows how sensory experience often depends on several systems working together. Some oral bacteria are harmless or helpful, while others contribute to tooth decay. The mouth is not simply a place where bacteria are either good or bad. It is a living environment with many kinds of microbes interacting with each other and with the tissues of the mouth. Under balanced conditions, many are not harmful. But some bacteria can use food substances, especially sugars, in ways that damage teeth over time. Tooth decay happens when certain bacteria use sugars to make acids. Those acids do not immediately destroy a tooth in one moment. Instead, they can begin a gradual process of demineralization, weakening the hard outer surface. This helps explain why repeated exposure to sugary substances can be a problem over time. The issue is not just the sugar itself, but what certain bacteria do with it. Those acids can gradually damage tooth structure and create cavities. This is usually a slow process rather than a sudden one. As acids repeatedly affect the tooth surface, minerals can be lost, and the tooth can become structurally weaker in that area. If the damage continues, an actual cavity can form. That is why ongoing oral care matters, because the process of decay often builds up step by step. Teeth are covered by a hard outer layer called enamel. Enamel is the exposed protective covering of the tooth and is the first tissue to face the mechanical forces of chewing, temperature changes, and chemical exposure from food and drink. Its hardness makes it especially useful in this role. It helps shield the deeper tooth structures that are more sensitive and less resistant to wear. Enamel protects the deeper parts of the tooth from heat, mechanical stress, chemicals, and bacteria. Every time a person chews, drinks something cold, or eat something acidic, the teeth encounter physical and chemical challenges. Enamel helps absorb much of that exposure. It acts almost like a durable shield, allowing the teeth to function repeatedly without the deeper tissues being directly exposed to the same level of stress. Saliva is produced by the salivary glands and is essential for oral health. It is easy to think of saliva as something simple and unimportant, but it supports many important processes at once. It helps with moisture, comfort, digestion, protection, and the balance of the mouth's internal environment. The mouth works best when saliva is present in the right amount and composition. Saliva moistens food and helps begin the process of breaking it down. Before food ever reaches the stomach, saliva is already helping make it easier to handle. Moisture softens food, helps form it into a swallowable mass, and supports the early stages of digestion. This means digestion truly begins in the mouth, not only later in the digestive tract. Saliva also washes food particles away from teeth and gums. This cleaning action helps reduce how long food remains stuck to oral surfaces. If particles stay in place too long, they can feed bacteria and contribute to irritation or decay. Saliva therefore helps with oral cleanliness in a quiet and continuous way, even between meals. Minerals in saliva, such as calcium and phosphate, help keep teeth strong. These minerals support the balance between loss and replacement at the tooth surface. When teeth face mild acid exposure, saliva can help restore mineral content to some degree. This shows that saliva is not only a fluid for moisture, but also part of the mouth's system for maintaining hard tissues. Saliva helps neutralize acids by buffering the mouth's pH. That means it helps reduce how acidic the mouth becomes after eating or drinking certain things. Since acids can damage enamel, this buffering role is very important. It is one of the reasons the mouth has some natural protective ability, even though it is constantly exposed to food, drink, and microbes. When saliva production drops, chewing and swallowing become more difficult. Food moves more comfortably and safely when the mouth is properly moistened. Without enough saliva, food can feel dry, sticky, and harder to manage. This can make everyday eating less comfortable and can interfere with one of the most basic repeated actions the body performs. Reduced saliva also raises the risk of cavities and oral infections. Without enough saliva, the mouth loses some of its natural cleaning, buffering, and protective abilities. Food particles may remain longer, acids may be neutralized less effectively, and microbes may gain more opportunity to grow in harmful ways. That is why saliva is so important, not only for comfort, but also for defense. Platelets are tiny cell fragments that help blood clot. They move through the bloodstream ready to respond when a blood vessel is damaged. Although they are small, their role is crucial. Without them, even minor injuries could be much harder for the body to manage. Their work is part of the body's rapid repair response when bleeding begins. Most clotting begins when damaged blood vessel walls send out chemical signals. These signals help alert platelets and other clotting components that repair is needed in a specific place. Clotting is therefore not random. It is guided by chemical communication that helps focus the response where a vessel has been injured. This makes the process more organized and efficient. Platelets stick together at sites of injury to form an early plug. This early plug is one of the first steps in reducing blood loss. It does not solve everything by itself, but it provides a quick initial barrier. The body then builds on that early response with additional clotting steps. It is a clear example of how the body responds to injury in stages. Plasma is the fluid portion of blood that carries cells and dissolved substances. Blood would not be able to move its solid components effectively without this liquid background. Plasma allows red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets to circulate, and it also transports many dissolved materials through the body. This makes it an important part of blood's role as a transport system. Bone marrow produces red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets from stem cells. Deep inside bones, this tissue works as a manufacturing site for major blood components. That means the skeleton is not only for support and movement. Some bones also house tissue that helps keep the blood renewed. This connection between skeletal structures and blood production is one of the body's quieter but very important partnerships. A complete blood count measures the number and size of different blood cells. This test is useful because blood circulates everywhere, so changes in it can give clues about many aspects of health. By looking at different cell types and their characteristics, doctors can learn about oxygen-carrying cells, immune-related cells, and clotting-related fragments, all from one sample. Blood typing identifies which blood group a person has. This matters because not all blood is interchangeable. The surface features of red blood cells can differ from person to person, and these differences are important in medicine, especially when blood is donated or received. Blood typing helps make those interactions safer and more precise. Matching blood type matters because the immune system can attack incompatible donated red blood cells. If the body recognizes donated blood as foreign in the wrong way, it can respond against it. That is why compatibility must be checked carefully. It is a striking example of how specific and watchful the immune system can be, even when dealing with something as seemingly simple as a blood transfusion. Neutrophils are the most common type of white blood cell. Their abundance reflects how important they are in the body's protective system. Because the body is constantly exposed to microbes and minor injuries, it benefits from having many of these cells available. Their presence in large numbers is part of being prepared for common forms of biological challenge. Lymphocytes include B cells and T cells. This group of immune cells contains several important players in the body's defense system. While they belong to the same broad category, they have different roles and methods of action. Their presence shows that immunity is not handled by one single cell type, but by a coordinated set of specialized cells. Some T cells can recognize and destroy infected or cancerous cells. This function is important because threats are not always outside the body. Sometimes the danger comes from cells inside the body that have been infected or have changed in harmful ways. Certain T cells help identify and respond to those problems, adding another layer to immune protection. Immunoglobulins are another name for antibodies found in blood. These molecules help the immune system recognize particular targets with a high degree of specificity. They are one of the body's tools for targeted defense. The fact that antibodies can be measured in blood also gives medicine a way to learn something about immune activity. Oxygen-poor blood from the body enters the right atrium. This is one of the first major steps in the route blood takes as it moves through the heart and lungs. After tissues have used oxygen and released carbon dioxide, the returning blood must be collected and directed toward the lungs. The right atrium helps begin that next stage of circulation. From the right atrium, blood moves into the right ventricle. The heart is arranged in chambers, and blood follows a directional path through them. This organization matters because it helps keep circulation efficient and prevents the flow from becoming disordered. Each chamber has a particular role in the sequence. The right ventricle pumps blood to the lungs. This chamber is responsible for sending oxygen-poor blood outward so gas exchange can occur. Once the blood reaches the lungs, carbon dioxide can leave and oxygen can enter. The right ventricle therefore plays a central role in linking the heart's pumping action to the lungs' exchange function. Oxygen-rich blood returns from the lungs through the pulmonary veins. After passing by the alveoli and taking up oxygen, the blood must travel back to the heart to be sent to the rest of the body. The pulmonary veins carry that freshly oxygenated blood inward again. This return pathway is part of the complete circular route of circulation. That oxygen-rich blood enters the left side of the heart before being pumped to the body. The left side is responsible for sending blood outward to tissues everywhere. This arrangement allows blood that has just received oxygen in the lungs to be delivered where it is needed most. It is a beautifully organized system of collection, exchange, return, and redistribution. Coronary arteries supply oxygen-rich blood to the heart muscle itself. The heart pumps blood to the rest of the body, but it also needs its own blood supply in order to keep working. The coronary arteries provide that supply. This is a good reminder that even the organ doing the pumping must still be supported like every other living tissue. Capillaries are the smallest blood vessels and are the main sites of exchange with tissues. Their small size is exactly what makes them so useful. They bring blood close to cells, allowing oxygen, nutrients, and wastes to move where needed. Large vessels are excellent for transport over distance, but capillaries are where much of the actual exchange happens. The digestive system includes the gastrointestinal tract, liver, pancreas, and gallbladder. This means digestion is not only about a long tube running through the body. It also involves organs that produce, store, and deliver substances needed to process food. The system is broader and more cooperative than it may first appear, with different organs contributing in different ways. Digestion breaks food into nutrients the body can use for energy, growth, and cell repair. Food is useful only after it has been processed into forms the body can absorb and distribute. This makes digestion one of the central ways the outside world becomes part of the body. The energy used for movement and the materials used for repair both depend on this transformation. The digestive tract includes the mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum, and anus. Each part has its own role in moving, processing, absorbing, or eliminating material. Food does not simply pass through one uniform tube. Instead, it moves through a sequence of specialized regions, each contributing something important to the larger process. The mouth begins digestion by mechanically and chemically processing food. Chewing breaks food into smaller pieces, while saliva begins the chemical side of the work. This early stage makes later digestion more effective by increasing surface area and starting the breakdown process before food ever reaches the stomach. It shows that digestion starts earlier than many people imagine. The esophagus is the tube that carries swallowed food to the stomach. Although it is sometimes overlooked, it plays an important transport role. Swallowing is not just food falling downward by gravity. The body coordinates this transfer carefully so that food moves in the correct direction and does not enter the airway. The esophagus is a key part of that controlled passage. The stomach stores and mixes food with digestive juices. It is not only a passive container. It helps continue the breakdown process by combining food with substances that aid digestion and by physically mixing what has been eaten. This turns the food into a form that can continue into the intestines for further processing and absorption. Most nutrient absorption occurs in the small intestine. By the time food reaches this part of the digestive tract, it has already been broken down quite a bit, and the body is ready to take useful materials into the bloodstream. The small intestine is specially built for this role, with a structure that gives it a great deal of surface area for absorption. This is where many of the nutrients from a meal finally cross from the digestive tract into the body's internal transport system. The large intestine reclaims water and helps form stool. After much of the nutrient absorption has already happened, the remaining material continues into the large intestine, where water is taken back into the body. This helps conserve fluid and also changes the texture of the waste material as it moves along. The large intestine is therefore not mainly about nutrient extraction, but about water balance and preparation for elimination. The liver produces bile, a digestive fluid that helps process fats and some vitamins. Bile is important because fats behave differently from many other food components and need special help during digestion. The liver's production of bile shows that digestion depends not only on the tube of the digestive tract, but also on supporting organs that contribute useful substances. The liver's digestive role is only one part of what it does, but it is a very important one. Bile travels through bile ducts from the liver to the gallbladder or small intestine. This pathway shows how the body uses channels and routes to move materials where they are needed. Bile is made in one place, stored in another, and then released into the digestive tract when useful. This kind of organization appears throughout the body, where production, storage, transport, and use are often separated across different structures. The gallbladder stores bile between meals. Rather than producing bile itself, the gallbladder holds bile made by the liver until the body needs it. This makes it a storage organ that supports digestion by timing the release of a useful fluid. Its role may seem simple, but timing matters in physiology, and storing bile between meals helps the body use that digested material more efficiently. When you eat, the gallbladder squeezes bile into the small intestine. This release helps support the digestion of fats at the time when food is actually present. In that way, the gallbladder is part of a coordinated digestive response, rather than a structure working on its own schedule. It responds as part of a larger sequence, helping digestion happen at the right place and the right time. The pancreas contributes digestive substances that help break food down further. This makes it another organ that supports digestion from the side, rather than simply being part of the food pathway itself. The pancreas adds useful materials that help transform food into smaller components the body can eventually absorb. It is a good example of how digestion relies on several organs contributing different kinds of help. The liver has digestive roles and also participates in many metabolic processes beyond digestion. This is one reason the liver is such an important organ. It is not limited to one narrow task. It helps with digestion through bile production, but it is also deeply involved in processing substances, managing aspects of body chemistry, and supporting the body's overall balance. The liver is best understood as both a digestive partner and a metabolic center. The kidneys are two bean-shaped organs located below the rib cage on either side of the spine. Their placement helps protect them while still allowing them access to the blood they continuously filter. Their shape is often mentioned because it is distinctive, but their function matters far more than their outline. These paired organs quietly support the chemistry of the entire body from their position deep in the back of the abdomen. Each kidney is about the size of a fist. This is a useful comparison because it reminds us that an organ does not need to be enormous to be essential. Despite their modest size, the kidneys help manage blood composition, waste removal, fluid balance, and many other quiet but necessary tasks. Their small size compared with their importance is one more example of how much the body accomplishes with compact structures. The kidneys remove wastes and extra water to make urine. This is one of their clearest and most familiar roles, but even this simple description hides a lot of complexity. The kidneys do not merely collect waste like a passive container. They actively filter, sort, and balance what should stay in the body and what should leave. Urine is the result of that ongoing decision-making process at the tissue level. Normal kidney function produces about 1 to 2 quarts of urine per day. That amount reflects both the body's need to remove wastes and its need to manage water balance. Urine production is not fixed at one unchanging number in all situations, but healthy kidneys usually produce an amount in that general range under normal conditions. This steady output is part of daily maintenance that most people rarely notice. Urine travels from each kidney to the bladder through a ureter. The body does not leave this movement to chance. Each kidney has its own ureter, and these tubes carry urine downward towards storage. This arrangement helps keep the flow organized and directional. It is another example of how body systems use defined routes to move materials efficiently from one place to another. The bladder stores urine until it is released. This storage function is important because it allows the kidneys to work continuously while urination happens only from time to time. Without storage, the filtering work of the kidneys would be much harder to manage in daily life. The bladder therefore acts as a temporary holding structure that gives the urinary system flexibility. The urinary tract includes the kidneys, ureters, bladder, and urethra. These parts work together as one system, even though they each have a different role. The kidneys filter, the ureters transport, the bladder stores, and the urethra provides the path for release. Looking at them together makes it easier to see that urine production and elimination are not one action, but a sequence of connected steps. Kidney function helps maintain fluid balance in the body. This is essential because cells work best when the internal environment stays within a usable range. Too much or too little fluid can disturb many processes. By adjusting water removal and retention through urine formation, the kidneys help keep the body's internal conditions steady enough for tissues to function well. The endocrine system uses hormones to coordinate functions across the body. Hormones are chemical messengers that travel in the blood, allowing one part of the body to influence another, even at a distance. This kind of signaling is especially useful for long-range coordination. It helps the body regulate growth, metabolism, reproduction, stress responses, and many other ongoing processes that need broad control rather than just local action. The endocrine system includes 8 major glands. This number helps remind us that hormone-based control is not centered in just one place. Several glands contribute to the larger network, each producing specific hormones with particular effects. The system is distributed, which allows different body functions to be regulated in different ways depending on need. Important endocrine glands include the pituitary, thyroid, adrenal glands, and pancreas. Each of these glands contributes to hormonal control, but they do not all do the same thing. Some influence growth and metabolism, others help the body respond to stress, and others affect blood sugar and digestion-related processes. The endocrine system works through variety, with different glands making different contributions. Hormones affect growth and development. This means they help guide how the body changes over time, from early development through later stages of life. Hormonal signaling helps tissues grow, mature, and maintain appropriate patterns of function. Growth is therefore not only a matter of food and genes, it also depends on carefully timed chemical messages within the body. Hormones also influence metabolism, sexual function, and mood. Their effects are wide-ranging, which is one reason the endocrine system is so important. Hormones can alter how the body uses energy, how reproductive systems function, and how a person feels and responds internally. This broad reach shows that chemical signaling through hormones is one of the body's major forms of coordination. The thyroid is a small butterfly-shaped gland in the front of the neck. Its size can make it seem unimportant, but it has a powerful influence on the body's use of energy. Its shape and location make it easy to describe anatomically, yet its real significance comes from the hormones it produces and the way those hormones affect body-wide activity. Thyroid hormones help control how the body uses energy. They influence metabolism, which means they help shape how quickly or slowly certain body processes run. This has effects across many tissues because nearly all cells depend on energy-related activity. In that way, thyroid function is not limited to one small area. It helps set a broader pace for the body. Thyroid hormone levels can influence how fast many body functions run. This includes aspects of energy use, heat production, and the overall tempo of physiology. When hormone levels shift, the effects can be felt widely because so many tissues are influenced. The thyroid is therefore a good example of how one gland can affect many systems at once. The adrenal glands make hormones including cortisol. These glands sit above the kidneys and contribute important chemical signals to the body's regulation systems. Cortisol is especially well known because it is linked with stress responses, but its role is broader than stress alone. The adrenal glands help the body stay prepared and responsive to internal and external demands. Cortisol is often called a stress hormone and is essential for life. The label stress hormone is useful, but it can be too narrow if taken alone. Cortisol also supports normal physiology in everyday life, helping with energy balance and other necessary functions. It is not simply a signal of distress. It is part of the body's normal regulatory chemistry. The pancreas has both digestive and endocrine functions. This makes it an especially interesting organ because it belongs functionally to more than one body system. On one side, it contributes substances that help digest food. On the other, it produces hormones that help regulate body chemistry. It is a strong example of how the body does not always fit neatly into separate compartments. The body's cells respond to hormones only if they have the right receptors and signaling machinery, This is important because hormones do not affect every cell in exactly the same way. A hormone can circulate widely in the blood, but only cells equipped to recognize it can respond properly. That selectivity helps the body target responses without every cell reacting to every message. Usually, one chromosome of each pair comes from each parent. This is part of how inherited information is combined in the body. The paired arrangement means genetic material is contributed from both sides of a person's biological ancestry. This mixture helps explain why people inherit traits in complex ways and why cells carry an organized set of paired chromosomes rather than a random collection. Genes are stretches of DNA that contain information for making functional products. These products may help build cell structures, carry out chemical work, or support regulation in many forms. A gene is not the whole of heredity by itself, but it is one defined piece of genetic information. Thinking of genes as specific instruction-containing stretches of DNA helps make the idea more concrete. Many body cells contain a nucleus where chromosomes are stored. The nucleus acts as a central compartment for genetic material in many kinds of cells. This arrangement helps organize the DNA and keep it accessible for the cell's needs. It is one of the key internal features that distinguishes many complex cells in the human body. During cell division, chromosomes are copied so new cells inherit genetic information. This copying is essential because the body depends on new cells replacing old ones, growing tissues, and maintaining organs. If genetic information were not passed along accurately enough during division, cells could not continue their specialized work. Cell division is therefore both a growth process and an information preservation process. Different cell types are specialized for different jobs, even though they share the same basic genetic code. A skin cell, a neuron, and a liver cell do not all behave the same way, even though they carry much of the same DNA. What differs is which instructions are used and how the cell is built for its role. This specialization allows the body to divide labor efficiently across many cell types. Body microbiomes can be found on the skin and in the digestive tract, among other places. Different body regions provide different environments, so the microbial communities found there can differ as well. A dry skin surface is not the same as the moist environment of the digestive tract, and microbes respond to those differences. The body is therefore home to several microbial habitats rather than one single uniform one. A healthy microbiome is a diverse and complex ecosystem. Diversity matters because it reflects a living community rather than domination by only one kind of organism. Complex systems often depend on balance, and the microbiome is no exception. Thinking of it as an ecosystem helps explain why changes in diet, hygiene, health, or medication can influence it in meaningful ways. What people eat can affect their microbiome. Food does not only feed the human body, it can also influence the microbes living in and on it, especially in the digestive tract. That means diet can shape not just human metabolism, but also the environment in which microbial communities grow and interact. This is one more example of how the body and its microbial partners are linked. The immune system relies on many different cell types rather than one single defense mechanism. Protection in the body is layered and varied. Some cells respond quickly, some make targeted molecules, some recognize abnormal cells, and some help coordinate the larger response. This diversity makes the immune system more adaptable and capable than any one-cell solution could be. B cells protect the body in part by releasing antibodies into body fluids. These antibodies can bind specific targets, helping the immune system recognize and respond to them. B cells are therefore part of the body's more targeted defenses, adding precision to immune protection. Their work helps show that the immune system is not only aggressive, but also highly selective. T cells perform multiple functions, including killing infected cells, This gives them an important role in dealing with problems that occur inside the body's own tissues. Instead of only responding to threats outside cells, some T cells help identify cells that have become infected or otherwise dangerous. That makes them a crucial part of deeper immune surveillance. Immune responses are specific because antibodies recognize particular molecular targets. This specificity is one reason the immune system can be so effective. Instead of reacting in one generic way to every challenge, it can distinguish among different targets at a detailed level. This precision helps the body respond more accurately rather than treating all biological signals as the same. Inflammation is a normal part of many immune responses. Although the word often sounds negative, inflammation is not automatically a sign that something has gone wrong beyond repair. It is often part of the body's attempt to manage injury or respond to a challenge. In this sense, inflammation can be understood as one of the body's standard protective reactions. The immune system can sometimes make autoantibodies that target the body's own tissues. This shows that immune precision, while powerful, is not infallible. A system built to recognize threats can sometimes misidentify what belongs to the body itself. That possibility reveals both the sophistication and the vulnerability of immune control. Immune defenses also include barriers such as the skin and protective substances in saliva. Immunity is not only about specialized blood cells. It also includes the body's frontline defenses at surfaces where contact with the outside world happens. These barriers and substances help reduce threats before deeper immune responses are even needed. Skin participates in immunologic surveillance as well as physical protection. That means skin is not merely a wall. It is an active tissue involved in monitoring and responding to the environment. This gives the skin a double role. It protects mechanically while also contributing to the body's awareness of possible biological threats. Saliva helps defend the mouth by carrying antimicrobial substances. This adds to its roles in moisture, digestion, and buffering. The mouth is exposed to food, microbes, and the outside world many times each day, so saliva's protective chemistry is especially valuable. It helps the mouth remain a functional and relatively balanced environment. The body can test immune status by measuring immunoglobulin levels in blood. Because antibodies circulate in body fluids, they can sometimes be measured to provide clues about immune activity. This is one example of how blood can serve as a window into deeper body processes. A sample taken from the bloodstream can reveal information far beyond the vessels themselves. Smell disorders can alter how people experience food because smell and taste work together. Flavor is not produced by the tongue alone. Smell contributes strongly to how food is experienced, which is why eating can seem very different when smell is reduced. This connection between senses reminds us that perception often depends on combined input rather than one isolated pathway. The tongue contributes to taste, but taste perception also depends on saliva and the nervous system. The tongue is central, but it does not work alone. Saliva helps dissolve substances so they can be detected, and nerves must carry and interpret the signals. Taste therefore depends on chemistry, moisture, and neural processing working together in an organized way. Dry mouth can make talking harder, as well as chewing and swallowing harder. This is because moisture in the mouth supports comfort and smooth movement. Without enough saliva, tissues can feel sticky or uncomfortable, and ordinary actions become more difficult. Something as simple as speaking clearly can depend on the presence of enough fluid in the mouth. Dental plaque is a thin film of bacteria that builds up on teeth each day. It forms gradually and can cling closely to tooth surfaces, especially in places that are harder to clean. Because it contains bacteria, plaque becomes important in oral health. Daily care matters partly because plaque tends to return regularly. rather than disappearing on its own. Brushing and flossing can remove plaque and help prevent tooth decay. These actions matter because they physically disrupt and remove bacterial buildup before it contributes more strongly to acid production, irritation, or damage. This is a practical example of prevention in the body. Small, repeated habits can reduce the chance of larger problems developing over time. Once a true cavity forms, the tooth will not restore itself back to normal shape on its own. This is important because it shows the limits of the body's self-repair in certain tissues. Teeth have some protective support from saliva and minerals, but once structural loss becomes a real cavity, the original form does not simply grow back naturally. This is one reason early prevention matters so much in oral health. The mouth is part of both the digestive system and the respiratory pathway. Food and drink enter through it, but air can also pass through it on the way to the lungs. That means the mouth sits at an important crossroads where two major body functions overlap. Because of this shared role, the body has to coordinate carefully so that eating, drinking, breathing, and speaking can happen safely and effectively. The body constantly coordinates swallowing so food moves into the esophagus instead of the airway. This is a highly organized process that usually happens so smoothly, people barely notice it. Muscles, nerves, and reflexes work together to guide food in the correct direction at exactly the right moment. That careful coordination helps protect the lungs while still allowing food to enter the digestive tract. The cornea is transparent because vision depends on light passing through it cleanly. If the front surface of the eye were opaque like skin, light would be blocked before vision could begin. The cornea must therefore allow light in while still helping protect the eye. Its clarity is not just a visual detail. It is essential to the entire process of seeing. The pupil does not create color. It simply appears dark because it is an opening. When people look at the eye, it can seem like the pupil is a black structure, but it is really just the central passage through which light enters. It looks dark because of the way light behaves when entering the deeper parts of the eye. This makes it a useful reminder that appearance and function are not always the same thing. The lens changes focus so objects at different distances can be seen more clearly. Looking at something nearby and then at something far away requires the eye to adjust how incoming light is directed. The lens helps make that adjustment possible. Without that flexibility, vision would be much less adaptable, and everyday tasks like reading and looking across a room would be harder. The retina begins turning light into electrical signals before the brain ever sees an image. In other words, light has to be converted into a form the nervous system can use. The retina performs that early transformation, making it one of the most specialized sensory tissues in the body. What people experience as sight begins with this quiet conversion process happening deep inside the eye. Pupil size changes are an automatic nervous system response. People do not usually decide to make their pupils smaller or larger. Instead, the body handles it automatically in response to light conditions and other influences. This is another example of the nervous system quietly adjusting the body in the background, helping keep sensory function effective without requiring conscious effort. Rod cells are especially important in the pupil-like response. These cells are part of the eye's light detecting system and help the body respond appropriately to changes in brightness. Their role shows that the visual system is not only about forming detailed images, it also helps regulate how the eye behaves in different lighting environments. Vision depends not only on healthy AIs, but also on intact optic pathways and brain processing. A clear cornea and healthy retina are not enough by themselves if the signals cannot travel properly or be interpreted correctly. This is why vision is best understood as a system rather than as one organ working alone. Seeing depends on detection, transmission, and interpretation all happening together. Many body actions that feel automatic, such as breathing, still depend on constant neural signaling. Even when something seems effortless, the body is usually coordinating it with ongoing communication. Breathing, for example, feels simple because it happens so naturally, but nerves and control centers are continuously involved in keeping it going. Automatic does not mean unregulated. It often means regulation is happening so well that it goes unnoticed. Damage to the spinal cord can disrupt communication between the brain and body below the injury. Because the spinal cord is such an important pathway for signals, disruption there can affect movement, sensation, and other functions in areas farther down the body. This shows how much the body depends on uninterrupted communication routes. A single damaged pathway can have effects in many places beyond the injury itself. Peripheral nerves can carry sensory, motor, and autonomic signals. That means they do more than one kind of work. Some bring information inward from the body, some carry commands outward to muscles, and some support automatic functions that operate without conscious control. Their versatility helps connect distant tissues to central control in many different ways at once. The brachial plexus supplies much of the arm's nerve function. Rather than one simple nerve line running into the arm, there is a more complex arrangement that helps organize sensation and movement in that region. This network helps explain how the arm can perform varied and precise actions. It also shows that limb function depends on carefully arranged nerve pathways. The arm contains not only bones and muscles, but also arteries, veins, and nerves packed into a compact structure. When people think of the arm, they often picture movement, but movement is only one part of its biology. The arm also needs blood supply, drainage, sensation, and regulation. Its compact design shows how multiple systems can fit together in a relatively small anatomical space. The hand's many bones and joints allow precise grip patterns that simpler limb designs could not manage. Human hands are capable of a wide range of actions, from holding heavy objects to performing extremely delicate tasks. That precision depends on both structure and control. The number and arrangement of bones and joints help make fine movement possible. Bone shape reflects function, which is why the long bones of limbs differ from the flat bones of the skull. Different jobs require different designs. Bones that support movement and leverage are built differently from bones that mainly protect broad areas such as the brain. This is one of the clearest examples in anatomy of structure matching function in a very visible way. Joint design affects motion, so some joints mainly hinge, while others allow rotation or multiple directions. Not every body part needs the same range or style of movement. A joint designed for bending differs from one designed for turning or moving more freely in space. This variation helps different body regions perform the tasks most useful for their location and role. The body's posture depends on ongoing coordination among muscles, joints, and the nervous system. Standing or sitting upright may feel passive, but it actually requires constant, subtle adjustments. Muscles maintain tension, joints provide alignment, and nerves monitor and respond to small shifts. Posture is therefore an active process, rather than a frozen position. Smooth muscle helps move food forward through the digestive tract. Unlike skeletal muscle, this work happens without conscious control. Food does not travel by simple falling or drifting. It is guided forward by coordinated muscular activity in the walls of the digestive system. This helps digestion proceed in an orderly direction. Smooth muscle in blood vessel walls helps regulate blood flow and pressure. By adjusting how wide or narrow a vessel is, smooth muscle influences how blood moves through different parts of the body. This ability helps match circulation to changing needs. It also shows that blood vessels are not passive tubes, but active structures involved in regulation. Cardiac muscle differs from skeletal muscle because it works continuously without conscious control. Skeletal muscle helps with chosen actions like walking or reaching, but cardiac muscle must keep contracting steadily whether a person is asleep, awake, focused, or distracted. That non-stop activity requires a very different kind of control and specialization. Skeletal muscles usually work in coordinated groups rather than one at a time. Even a simple action like lifting a cup involves more than one muscle. Some muscles produce movement, others stabilize joints, and others help refine the action. This teamwork allows movement to be smoother and more controlled than it would be if each muscle acted alone. The body's ability to stand still actually requires many tiny muscle adjustments. What looks like stillness is often a carefully managed balance process. Muscles make small changes in tension to keep the body upright and steady. This quiet activity is easy to overlook, but it shows how much hidden work supports even the most ordinary posture. Skin senses pressure, temperature, and pain through embedded nerve endings. This means skin is not just a protective covering. It is also a sensory surface that helps the body monitor the environment. Through these nerve endings, the skin provides information that can support comfort, safety, and quick responses to change. Skin is also involved in sensory perception, not just protection. The outside of the body is one of the main places where information first enters from the environment. Touch, warmth, coolness, and discomfort can all begin at the level of skin. This gives skin a dual role as both shield and source of information. The body loses some water invisibly through the skin, even when a person does not notice it. Water loss is not limited only to obvious sweating. There is also a quieter form of ongoing loss through the skin's surface. This helps show that the body is always exchanging materials with the environment, even in ways that are too subtle to feel directly. Skin structure is an intricate network rather than a simple outer covering. It contains layers, supportive fibers, blood vessels, nerves, and many specialized cells. Because of this complexity, skin can protect, sense, regulate, and interact with the immune system all at once. Its everyday familiarity can hide how sophisticated it really is. Fragile skin disorders show how important structural proteins are for keeping layers of skin anchored together. When those supporting components are disrupted, the skin may become much easier to injure or separate. This reveals how essential microscopic structural organization is to the strength we usually take for granted. Stable skin depends on more than thickness alone. The body depends on connective tissues to hold organs and systems together in organized ways. Without supportive tissues, the body would not maintain the same internal order and physical relationships among its parts. Connective tissues help bind, support, cushion, and organize structures across many systems. They are part of the framework that keeps the body physically coherent. The body is made not only of organs and tissues, but also of physiological spaces that matter for function. Empty-looking spaces in anatomy are not always meaningless gaps. Some are necessary for fluid movement, organ motion, expansion, or other processes. This reminds us that the body's organization includes both structures and the spaces between them. Some body spaces are essential for fluid movement, organ expansion, and metabolic processes. A space may allow an organ to change shape, help a fluid move, or provide room for tissues to function normally. In anatomy, space can be just as important as solid material. Function often depends on both being arranged properly. Blood reaching the lungs is rich in carbon dioxide and low in oxygen. That condition reflects the work already done by the tissues of the body. Cells have taken oxygen from the blood and released carbon dioxide into it, and the lungs are the place where that balance can be corrected. This makes the lungs part of a continuous refresh cycle for the blood. Blood leaving the lungs has picked up oxygen that cells need for energy production. After gas exchange in the alveoli, the blood is better prepared to support the needs of tissues throughout the body. This oxygen-rich blood can then be pumped outward and delivered widely. The change that happens in the lungs is therefore central to the body's energy-supporting systems. Oxygen delivery depends on both lung function and hemoglobin in red blood cells. The lungs must bring oxygen into close contact with blood, but the blood must also be able to carry that oxygen effectively. Hemoglobin makes that transport possible. This shows how body systems often share responsibility for one function rather than leaving it to a single organ. The body's tissues continuously extract oxygen from blood and release carbon dioxide back into it. This exchange is happening all over the body, not only in one place. As blood flows through tissues, cells take what they need and give back what must be removed. Circulation is therefore not just transportation. It is part of a constant exchange between blood and living tissue. Circulation brings nutrients to tissues at the same time it removes wastes from them. Blood is useful not only for carrying gases, but also for delivering building materials and collecting substances that need to be processed or eliminated. This dual role makes the bloodstream one of the body's most efficient distribution and cleanup systems. Blood vessels are lined by specialized cells that help control clotting, vessel tone, and exchange. The inner lining of vessels is not a passive surface. It participates in managing how blood behaves, how vessels respond, and how materials move between blood and tissues. This makes the vessel wall biologically active rather than just structural. Many organs depend on both nerve signals and hormonal signals at once, such as the heart responding to nerves and hormones. This layered control helps the body stay flexible. Fast changes can be guided by nerves, while broader or longer-lasting influences can come from hormones. Using both systems together allows better coordination than either one alone could provide. The body can monitor itself internally through signals about temperature, pressure, chemistry, and stretch. It is not only aware of the outside world, it is also constantly collecting information about what is happening inside. This internal monitoring helps the body adjust breathing, circulation, fluid balance, and many other functions in real time. Homeostasis means the body works to keep internal conditions within usable ranges. It does not mean everything stays perfectly fixed. Instead, the body makes ongoing adjustments so that temperature, fluid levels, chemistry, and other conditions remain suitable for life. Homeostasis is one of the clearest examples of the body as a self-regulating system. Skin, kidneys, lungs, and blood vessels all contribute to maintaining homeostasis. Each does it in a different way. The skin helps with temperature and water balance, the kidneys help with fluid and chemical balance, the lungs help manage gases, and blood vessels help distribute and regulate flow. Stability in the body is a shared achievement across multiple systems. The body's temperature regulation involves the skin, circulation, and nervous system. Temperature control is not handled by one organ working alone. The nervous system detects and coordinates responses. Circulation shifts heat distribution, and skin helps exchange heat with the environment. This makes temperature regulation a fine example of system-wide cooperation. The digestive system's purpose is not just to extract calories, but also to provide building materials for repair and growth. Nutrients from food are used for more than energy. They also help build tissues, replace worn components, and support the body's constant maintenance. Eating, therefore, supports both immediate function and long-term structure. Every meal becomes part of body chemistry only after mechanical breakdown, digestion, absorption, and transport. A meal is not instantly useful the moment it is swallowed. It has to be processed in stages before its components can join the body's internal systems. This stepwise transformation helps explain how outside material becomes internal fuel and structure. The liver is central to digestion, but it is also a major metabolic processing center. This makes it one of the most multifunctional organs in the body. It helps with digestion through bile, yet it also participates in many chemical processes that go far beyond food breakdown alone. The liver is a major hub for internal processing. The gallbladder stores digested material made elsewhere rather than producing it itself. This role may sound modest, but storage and timing are often crucial in physiology. By holding bile until it is needed, the gallbladder helps the digestive system respond more efficiently when food enters the small intestine. The pancreas is unusual because one organ contributes to both digestion and hormone regulation. Few examples illustrate overlapping body systems more clearly. On one side, it helps break down food. On the other, it sends hormonal signals that influence body chemistry. This dual role makes the pancreas a strong reminder that anatomy and physiology often overlap in elegant ways. Urine formation is a filtering and balancing process, not just simple waste dumping. The kidneys do not merely throw unwanted material out of the body. They also help decide what to retain and what to remove. This balancing work is one reason kidney function is so important for many other tissues and systems. Kidney function helps keep blood chemistry stable enough for nerves and muscles to work normally. Nerves and muscles depend on carefully managed internal conditions. If blood chemistry shifts too far, their function can be affected. The kidneys help protect against that instability by continuously adjusting what is kept and what is excreted. The bladder's ability to store urine lets the kidneys work continuously rather than only at certain times. This separation of roles is efficient. The kidneys can filter blood all day and night, while the bladder provides temporary storage until release is practical. It is another example of the body dividing tasks across structures to make the whole system work smoothly. The ureters move urine with muscular action rather than by gravity alone. This means urine transport is active and controlled, not simply dependent on body position. Muscular movement helps keep flow directed from the kidneys to the bladder. Even in a system that seems simple on the surface, the body uses active mechanisms to ensure reliability. The body's structure reflects layered organization. Cells make tissues, tissues make organs, and organs make systems. This layered arrangement helps explain how very small living units can scale up into something as large and complex as the human body. A single cell does not pump blood or digest a meal by itself, but many cells working together can form tissue, and several tissues working together can form an organ. This structure gives the body both complexity and order, allowing different levels of organization to support one another. Almost every cell in the body carries a copy of the genome, yet liver cells, neurons, and skin cells behave very differently. This is one of the most striking ideas in biology. The same basic genetic information can exist in many cells, but those cells do not all use that information in the same way. A nerve cell is shaped and specialized for signaling, while a skin cell is specialized for protection. What makes the difference is not only what information exists, but which parts of that information are active in each cell type. Specialization lets the body divide labor among cell types, instead of asking every cell to do every job. This makes the body much more efficient. Rather than having one general purpose cell trying to handle movement, protection, signaling, digestion, and repair all at once, the body creates different kinds of cells suited to different roles. That division of labor is part of what makes complex life possible, because it allows tissues and organs to become highly effective at their own tasks. Many tissues depend on constant cell replacement because normal function involves wear, friction, or exposure. Body surfaces and working tissues are not preserved in perfect condition forever. Some are regularly stressed by movement, contact, or environmental exposure, so the body must renew them to keep them functional. This means maintenance is not an occasional event. In many tissues, it is part of normal life. Blood cells are replaced throughout life because they have limited lifespans and high turnover demands. The bloodstream is always active, carrying oxygen, supporting immunity, and helping with clotting, so its cellular components cannot simply remain unchanged forever. New blood cells have to be produced continually to replace older ones. This constant renewal is one reason bone marrow remains so important throughout life. The body's protective systems overlap, so the same region may have physical, chemical, and immune defenses at once. Protection is not usually handled by just one method. A body surface may block entry physically, contain protective substances chemically, and also be monitored by immune cells. This layered design makes defense more reliable, because if one kind of protection is limited, another may still help. The mouth is a good example of overlapping defenses because teeth, saliva, microbes, and immunity all interact there. It is a place where food enters, speech is shaped, microbes live, and tissues remain exposed to the outside world many times each day. Because of that, the mouth has to balance several roles at once. It uses hard structures, protective fluid, microbial balance, and immune support all in one small space. The eye must balance protection with transparency, which is why its front structures are both delicate and highly specialized. It cannot simply be covered by thick, opaque tissue the way much of the body is, because light must pass through it. At the same time, it still needs protection from the outside environment. This creates a special design challenge, and the eye solves it through tissues that are both functional and unusually refined. Vision requires precise focusing because small errors in how light bends can blur images. Seeing clearly depends on light being directed properly onto the retina. If the focusing system is slightly off, the result can be a less sharp image. This need for precision helps explain why the eye includes multiple structures devoted to bending and controlling light in a carefully coordinated way. Taste depends partly on smell, which is why food often seems less flavorful when the nose is blocked. People often think of taste as something handled entirely by the tongue, but flavor is actually a combined experience. Smell adds important information that helps the brain interpret what is being eaten. When smell is reduced, food may seem duller, even if the tongue is still detecting basic tastes. The ear contributes to both hearing and balance, making it a dual-function sensory organ. This makes it a good example of how one body structure can support more than one important type of perception. It helps detect sound from the outside world, but it also helps the body understand motion and orientation. That combination is part of why the ear is such a specialized and important organ. The nervous system interprets signals from the senses rather than merely relaying them unchanged. Sensory input is not just passed along like a note being handed from one person to another. The nervous system helps sort, process, and make meaning out of that information. This is why perception is more than detection. It is also interpretation. The brain acts as the interpreter of the senses as well as the initiator of movement. It helps make sense of incoming signals and also helps organize outgoing responses. This gives it a central role in connecting what the body notices with what the body does. Sensation and action are therefore deeply linked through brain function. Movement is possible only because nerves, muscles, joints, and energy supply all work together. If one of these elements is missing or severely disrupted, movement becomes much more difficult or impossible. Muscles need nerve input, joints need structural support, and all active tissue needs energy. This makes movement one of the clearest examples of cooperation among multiple body systems. Even simple actions like standing up involve coordination across many body systems. What seems easy from the outside depends on muscles producing force, bones providing leverage, joints allowing motion, nerves guiding the sequence, and circulation delivering oxygen and nutrients. Everyday actions feel ordinary, mainly because the body performs them so smoothly, not because they are truly simple. The body constantly converts chemical energy from food into usable energy for cells. Food is not useful in its original form once eaten. It has to be processed and transformed so cells can use it to support their own work. That conversion underlies nearly everything the body does, from movement and thought to repair and temperature control. Oxygen is essential because cells use it to support energy-making processes. Without oxygen, many of the body's most important processes cannot continue in the usual way. This is one reason breathing and circulation are so central to life. Oxygen has to be taken in, transported, and delivered again and again so cells can keep functioning. Carbon dioxide is a normal waste product of metabolism, not just something present in exhaled air. It is produced as cells carry out energy-related processes, and then it must be removed to help maintain internal balance. The lungs help eliminate it, but its origin is throughout the body. This makes carbon dioxide part of the body's constant exchange between cellular activity and whole-body regulation. The bloodstream is the body's main rapid transport network for gases, nutrients, hormones, immune cells, and wastes. Few systems are as broadly connected as the circulation. Because blood reaches essentially all tissues, it allows the body to move materials quickly and efficiently over long distances. This wide reach is why changes in one part of the body can often affect many others through the bloodstream. Blood testing can reveal changes in many body systems because blood circulates through all of them. A blood sample is not just information about blood itself. It can provide clues about organs, immune activity, metabolism, oxygen transport, and many other internal processes. That makes blood testing one of the most useful ways to gather information about the body as a whole. A basic blood test can examine oxygen-carrying cells, immune cells, and clotting fragments all at once. This is part of what makes blood work so informative. From one sample, different aspects of physiology can be examined together. Red blood cells, white blood cells, and platelets each tell something different, so one test can provide a broad snapshot of several important systems. The body can survive minor cuts partly because clotting usually starts within moments of vessel injury. This rapid response helps limit blood loss before a small injury becomes a larger problem. The body does not wait passively for healing to begin later. It starts protecting itself almost immediately through chemical signals and platelet activity. Clotting must be carefully balanced because too little causes bleeding and too much can block vessels. This balance is important because protection and danger can come from the same system if it is not regulated properly. The body needs enough clotting to seal injuries, but not so much that normal blood flow is obstructed. Good physiology often depends on this kind of careful middle ground. The body's barrier organs, such as skin and oral tissues, are under constant contact with the outside world. They are the front line of daily life, meeting air, food, microbes, temperature change, friction, and countless other influences. Because of that exposure, these tissues have to be both resilient and responsive. They are not isolated from the environment. They are continuously interacting with it. Because of that exposure, barrier tissues combine structural strength with rapid repair and immune vigilance. They need to stay physically intact, recover from ordinary wear, and help watch for possible threats. This combination makes them more dynamic than they may seem. A barrier tissue is not just a wall. It is a living, active boundary. Saliva has mechanical, chemical, and immune roles at the same time. It moistens, rinses, buffers, begins digestion, and carries protective substances. This makes saliva a perfect example of the body using one material for several jobs at once. Something that seems simple can turn out to be functionally rich when looked at more closely. Teeth are not bones, even though both are hard mineralized tissues. They may seem similar because both are rigid and contain mineral content, but they are different structures with different organization and roles. Teeth are specialized for biting and chewing, and their outer enamel is unlike bone in important ways. This distinction helps show that hardness alone does not make two tissues the same. Enamel is extremely hard, but it is still vulnerable to acids produced by bacteria. Hardness does not mean invincibility. Enamel is very strong, yet repeated acid exposure can still wear it down over time. This is one reason oral care matters so much. Even the hardest tissue in the body has limits under the right conditions. The mouth's microbial ecosystem changes with hygiene, diet, saliva, and health status. It is not fixed in one permanent state. Daily habits and body conditions can shift which microbes thrive and how balanced the system remains. This makes the mouth a changing environment rather than a static one, shaped by both biology and behavior. The body's internal organs rely on protective external structures more than people often realize. Organs deep inside the body may seem separate from the outside surface, but they still benefit from outer defenses such as skin, mucosal tissues, and other barriers. Protection begins at the boundary, and that outer protection helps reduce the burden placed on inner organs. The skin protects against ultraviolet light, as well as trauma and microbes. This expands the picture of what protection means. Skin does not only guard against cuts or germs. It also helps manage exposure to environmental energy, such as sunlight. That makes it both a physical barrier and a shield against certain forms of radiation. The body uses specialized routes for different materials, such as air through the respiratory tract and urine through the urinary tract. This organization helps keep functions clear and efficient. Different materials move through different pathways because they serve different purposes and require different forms of handling. The body's root system reflects this need for order. Yet many systems still intersect, as seen where the throat must coordinate breathing and swallowing. Even though the body separates many pathways, some regions are shared and must be carefully managed. This overlap is one reason coordination is so important. Shared spaces require timing, control, and protection so that materials go where they are supposed to go. The circulatory system connects distant organs so quickly that no cell is far from a blood supply. This closeness matters because cells need a steady supply of oxygen and nutrients and a way to remove wastes. The bloodstream makes the body feel unified, linking tissues that are physically far apart into one connected internal environment. The body's organs are physically separate, but functionally they are deeply interdependent. One organ may sit in the chest, another in the abdomen, and another in the neck, yet their work is linked continuously. The body is not a pile of independent parts. It is a coordinated whole in which each organ's function supports and depends on the others. A change in one system, such as thyroid hormone production, can affect many others. This is common in physiology because body systems are linked through circulation, signaling, and shared needs. A hormonal shift in one gland can influence heart rate, energy use, temperature handling, and more. The body spreads effects widely through its integrated design. Thyroid hormones can influence heart rate because metabolism and circulation are linked. If the body's energy-related pace changes, the circulatory system often responds as well. This is one example of how metabolism is not an isolated idea. It affects how other systems perform and interact, including the work of the heart. Kidney problems can alter blood chemistry, which can then affect nerves and muscles. This shows how an organ that mainly seems related to urine can influence systems that control movement and signaling. The kidneys help maintain conditions that nerves and muscles need in order to function properly. When that balance is disturbed, effects can spread outward. Reduced saliva can influence taste, swallowing, dental health, and infection risk all at once. One small change in body function can have several consequences because the same substance often serves several purposes. Saliva is a good example of this. It supports comfort, sensing, digestion, cleaning, buffering, and defense at the same time. Visual perception begins in the eye but is completed in the brain. The eye collects and begins processing the information, but the final experience of seeing depends on brain interpretation. This is why sight is not just an optical event. It is also a nervous system event. Hearing perception begins in the ear, but likewise depends on brain processing. Sound waves have to be detected and converted into signals, but those signals still need to be interpreted as meaningful sound. Like vision, hearing is a partnership between a sense organ and the brain. The body can detect injury through pain signals. The pain itself is interpreted by the nervous system. This means injury detection and pain experience are closely linked but not identical. Nerves carry signals related to damage or possible damage, and the nervous system makes sense of them. This helps explain why pain is both a biological warning system and a form of perception. Many body functions continue automatically during sleep because automatic control systems keep running. Sleep changes awareness, but it does not stop the body's vital maintenance. Breathing continues, the heart keeps beating, and organs keep regulating the internal environment. This quiet continuity is part of what makes sleep safe and restorative. The heart does not need conscious instruction for each beat. Its rhythm is maintained automatically, allowing circulation to continue through sleep, thought, and daily activity without deliberate effort. This automatic function is one reason life can continue smoothly, even while attention is directed elsewhere. The lungs continue gas exchange continuously, as long as breathing continues. They do not work only during exertion or waking activity. Gas exchange remains essential every moment, which is why the respiratory system keeps operating in the background day and night. The body's constant need for oxygen makes this uninterrupted work necessary. The kidneys keep filtering blood day and night. Their work does not pause when a person rests. They continue helping regulate fluids, remove wastes, and support stable internal chemistry at all hours. This non-stop filtering is part of the body's quiet maintenance routine. The liver continues processing nutrients and producing bile, even when a person is resting. Rest does not mean internal inactivity. The liver keeps participating in metabolism and digestive support whether someone is moving or still. This helps show how many organs remain busy even when the outside of the body seems calm. The body never truly shuts off because life depends on constant maintenance work by many organs. Sleep may reduce conscious activity, but the deeper systems of circulation, breathing, filtering, signaling, and repair continue. Life is sustained by continuous internal effort, much of it hidden from awareness. Human development before birth depends heavily on the placenta. This temporary organ plays a crucial role during pregnancy by supporting the developing baby. It helps manage exchange and supports growth in a way that is essential to early human development. Its importance is enormous, even though it is only present for a limited period. The placenta plays critical roles in fetal development, pregnancy outcomes, and lifelong health. It is not merely a passive attachment. It is an active organ involved in supporting growth and influencing conditions during development. Because early development matters so much, the placenta's function can have consequences that extend well beyond birth. Problems affecting the placenta can strongly affect pregnancy outcomes. This reflects how central it is to development before birth. When such a key support system is disturbed, the effects can be significant. The placenta's importance becomes especially clear when its function is compromised. Amniotic fluid contains fetal cells with the fetus's genetic material. This makes it more than just protective fluid. It is part of the developmental environment and can also contain biological information related to the growing baby. This fact gives a glimpse of how closely form, protection, and development are intertwined before birth. During labor, contractions of the uterus and changes in the cervix prepare the body for birth. Birth is not one single action, but a coordinated physical process involving muscular force and structural change. The uterus helps move the baby, while the cervix changes in preparation. This coordination reflects how anatomy and timing work together in reproduction. After the baby is born, the placenta is delivered as a separate stage of childbirth. This highlights that the placenta is its own structure with its own role in pregnancy. It is not just background support. It is a major participant in development and birth, with the beginning, function, and final stage of delivery. The body's reproductive and developmental systems are coordinated by anatomy, hormones, and timing. Development does not happen through structure alone, and it does not happen through hormones alone. It depends on body parts forming and functioning in the right way, chemical signals arriving at the right time, and many stages unfolding in the right sequence. This coordination is one reason human development is both delicate and remarkably organized. Congenital anomalies can arise during development, showing how precisely body formation must be controlled. When the body is being built before birth, countless steps have to occur in an orderly way. If some part of that process is changed or interrupted, the structure or function of a body part may develop differently. This helps reveal how exact early development really is, and how much depends on careful biological timing and organization. The body's design reflects both strength and vulnerability, because highly specialized structures often depend on exact organization. A tissue can be beautifully suited to its job, yet that same specialization may mean it depends on a very particular arrangement to work well. The eye, the heart, the skin, and the nervous system are all impressive examples of this balance. The body is resilient in many ways, but its most advanced functions often rely on precision. The brain can send motor commands, but movement still depends on working nerves and muscles to carry them out. A decision to move begins in the nervous system, yet that signal still has to travel, reach the right tissues, and be turned into physical action. Muscles must contract, joints must allow motion, and the skeleton must provide leverage. This means intention alone is not enough. Movement is the result of a whole chain of cooperation. Sensory systems let the body monitor both the outside world and internal conditions. The body notices light, sound, touch, temperature, and chemicals in the environment, but it also tracks signals from inside, such as stretch, pressure, and shifts in chemistry. This dual awareness helps the body stay safe and balanced. It is not only watching the world around it, it is also quietly keeping watch over itself. The body interprets light, chemicals, pressure, stretch, and temperature using different receptor systems. Different kinds of information require different kinds of detection. Light is not sensed the same way as pressure, and a chemical signal is not handled the same way as warmth. The body uses specialized receptors because each kind of stimulus needs its own method of detection. This diversity is one reason perception can be so rich and so accurate. Human anatomy is often taught in systems, but the body itself does not operate in strict compartments. It is useful to study the body in pieces such as the nervous system, digestive system, or circulatory system, but real physiology does not stay neatly inside those borders. Systems overlap constantly, influence one another, and often share organs or signals. The body is easier to study in categories than it is to live in categories. The same organ can belong functionally to more than one system, as seen with the pancreas. It helps with digestion by contributing substances that break down food, yet it also participates in hormone-based regulation. This reminds us that the body is not built like a machine, with one part for one job only. Some organs serve more than one major purpose, linking systems together in practical ways. The same substance can have multiple roles, as seen with saliva acting in lubrication, digestion, defense, and enamel protection. Saliva helps moisten the mouth, begin food breakdown, rinse away particles, reduce acidity, and support oral defense. It is one of the clearest examples of the body making one material do many useful jobs. Something that seems ordinary can turn out to be surprisingly versatile. The body's protective chemistry is often invisible, but it is as important as bones and muscles. People can easily notice skeleton and muscle because they shape movement and appearance, but many vital protections happen through chemicals, fluids, and microscopic molecules. Antimicrobial substances, buffering systems, hormones, and signaling molecules all help keep life stable. Protection in the body is not only mechanical, it is also chemical. Organs depend on stable blood flow because cells need a constant supply of oxygen and nutrients. A working organ is never separate from its blood supply for long. Tissues need delivery of raw materials and removal of waste, and both depend on circulation. This makes blood flow one of the body's most basic requirements for survival, because even well-built tissues cannot function for long without ongoing support. Blood flow must also remove carbon dioxide and other wastes quickly enough to keep tissues functioning. Delivery is only half the story. If waste products remain in tissues too long, the local environment becomes less suitable for healthy cellular work. So circulation serves as both a supply line and a removal system. It is always bringing in what is needed and carrying away what should not accumulate. Body tissues are shaped by what they do, which is why thin exchange surfaces differ so much from load-bearing tissues. Tissues built for filtering, sensing, or exchange often need to be delicate and specialized, while tissues built for force or protection often need thickness or hardness. This pattern appears again and again throughout anatomy. Structure follows function so closely that the shape of a tissue often tells a great deal about its job. The alveoli are built for exchange, whereas enamel is built for hardness. This contrast is a beautiful example of how different body jobs require very different designs. Alveoli are delicate and thin, so gases can move across them easily, while enamel is dense and hard, so teeth can withstand chewing and exposure. The body does not use one basic design for every purpose. It creates very different tissues for very different needs. The retina is built for light detection, whereas skin is built for barrier protection and sensing. Both are important, but they are specialized in very different directions. The retina is designed to respond to light with extraordinary sensitivity, while skin is designed to protect, regulate, and detect touch, temperature, and pain. This difference shows how the body tailors tissues to their role, instead of asking one tissue to do everything. The bladder is built for storage, whereas kidneys are built for filtration and regulation. These organs work together, but they are not doing the same kind of job. The kidneys constantly process blood and help control internal balance, while the bladder holds urine until release is practical. This division of labor makes the urinary system more efficient and easier for daily life. The heart's chambers separate oxygen poor from oxygen-rich blood, so circulation can run efficiently. This separation matters because blood heading to the lungs has a different immediate purpose from blood heading out to the body. By keeping the flows organized, the heart helps preserve an efficient route for gas exchange and delivery. The design of the heart reflects how strongly the body depends on direction and order. The body's systems use valves, sphincters, and directional flow to move materials the right way at the right time. Blood should move through the heart in one general direction, food should move through the digestive tract in sequence, and urine should move toward storage and release in an organized path. The body often prevents backward movement or mistimed release through structural controls like these. This helps keep internal traffic orderly. The body's structure is highly asymmetrical in some places, even though it looks roughly symmetrical from the outside. The outside of the body suggests balance from left to right, but inside, many organs differ in position, size, or shape. This reminds us that external appearance can hide a more complex internal arrangement. The body uses asymmetry when it serves function, not simply appearance. Many organs come in pairs, such as the kidneys and lungs, while others are single, such as the heart and liver. This pattern shows that the body does not follow one single organizational rule for everything. Some functions are distributed across paired organs, while others are centered in one major structure. The body uses whichever arrangement best supports the role of that organ. The body can often compensate for moderate changes in one area because many systems have reserve capacity. That means some organs and tissues are able to keep functioning even when conditions are less than ideal. This reserve helps the body remain stable in the face of everyday stress and minor disruptions. It is one reason the body can be flexible rather than fragile in every moment. The body's cells need a stable internal environment, and most physiology exists to maintain that stability. Temperature, fluid levels, gas balance, and chemistry all need to stay within workable limits if cells are to do their jobs. Many systems that seem separate are really working toward this shared goal. Stability is not a side effect of life. It is one of life's central requirements. Human anatomy has been studied for thousands of years, and ancient anatomical drawings suggest early people recognized internal structure long before modern medicine. Even without today's tools, human curiosity led people to observe the body and try to understand how it was organized. That long history reminds us that anatomy has fascinated people for a very long time. The body has always invited study because its structure is both visible and mysterious. Modern anatomy combines structure with physiology because understanding what a part looks like is not enough without understanding what it does. A diagram can show where an organ is, but function explains why that organ matters. Today, body knowledge is strongest when shape and action are studied together. This reflects a deeper truth. In living systems, structure and function are closely linked. The body's most basic survival tasks include protecting itself, getting energy, exchanging gases, removing waste, and reproducing. These core functions help summarize what the body must accomplish to stay alive and continue the species. Every system, no matter how specialized, contributes in some way to one or more of these broad goals. Looking at the body through this lens can make its complexity feel more organized. Even ordinary actions such as seeing, swallowing, standing, and healing depend on layers of hidden coordination. These actions can feel simple because they are familiar, but under the surface they require signals, tissues, blood flow, chemistry, and timing to work together. The body makes complexity feel effortless. That quiet coordination is one of the most remarkable things about it. Neutrophils are a main first-line defense against invading germs. Their role is especially important because the body needs rapid responses to common threats. They are among the protective cells ready to respond early when germs enter or tissues are damaged. This helps show that the immune system is designed not only for precision, but also for speed. B cells make antibodies. These cells contribute to the body's more targeted defenses by producing molecules that recognize particular targets. Rather than responding in a completely general way, B cells help the immune system identify and bind specific things it needs to deal with. This gives protection a more focused quality. Antibodies are highly specific and bind particular targets. That specificity is one reason immune responses can be so refined. Instead of treating all biological threats as identical, antibodies can recognize certain molecular features with impressive selectivity. This shows how detailed the body's defensive chemistry can be. Regular physical activity strengthens the heart muscle. Because the heart is a working muscle, it can respond to demands placed on it. Repeated activity helps support the heart's function and efficiency over time. This is one way behavior in daily life can influence an organ that works constantly from birth onward. Stronger heart function can improve the body's ability to deliver oxygen to tissues. When the heart works effectively, circulation supports the body more efficiently. Oxygen and nutrients can be moved where they are needed, and wastes can be removed more effectively. This makes heart function important, not only for the heart itself, but for the well-being of many tissues. Blood low in oxygen reaches the lungs through branches of the pulmonary artery. This route is part of the organized path circulation follows through the heart and lungs. It ensures that blood needing gas exchange reaches the place where oxygen can be taken up and carbon dioxide can be released. The body depends on this route being reliable and continuous. Breathing depends on coordinated work between the lungs, chest wall, and nervous system. Air movement is not produced by the lungs alone. The chest has to move, muscles have to act, and the nervous system has to guide the pattern. This makes breathing another example of a body function that appears simple only because the coordination is so smooth. The endocrine system includes 8 major glands. This distributed design allows hormone-based control to reach many aspects of the body. Different glands contribute different kinds of signals, and together they form a broad regulatory network. This shows that long-range coordination in the body comes from many sources rather than from one control point alone. Important endocrine glands include the pituitary, thyroid, adrenal glands, and pancreas. Each of these contributes to body regulation in a different way. Some help influence metabolism, some help with stress responses, and some help coordinate other endocrine functions. This variety helps the body regulate many processes at once. The body's cells respond to hormones only if they have the right receptors and signaling machinery. This is important because hormones often circulate widely, but their effects are still selective. A signal can only matter to a cell that is equipped to notice and respond to it. This lets the body send messages through the bloodstream without every message affecting every tissue equally. The body can test immune status by measuring immunoglobulin levels in blood. Because antibodies move in body fluids, their presence can provide information about immune activity. Blood therefore becomes not only a transport medium, but also a source of clues about the body's internal defensive state. This is one more reason blood can reveal so much about overall physiology. The body can monitor itself internally through signals about temperature, pressure, chemistry, and stretch. Internal sensing helps regulate breathing, circulation, digestion, and many other processes without the need for constant conscious awareness. It allows the body to make quiet adjustments based on what is happening inside. This hidden awareness is part of what keeps life stable. The body uses both rapid nerve signals and slower hormonal signals to stay coordinated. Fast signals are useful when something needs to change immediately, while slower chemical messages can shape broader and longer-lasting effects. The body benefits from having both systems because life requires both quick reactions and steady regulation. Homeostasis means the body works to keep internal conditions within usable ranges. It does not aim for total stillness, but for workable balance. This allows the body to respond to change without losing control of its internal environment. Homeostasis is one of the most peaceful ideas in physiology because it describes the body's steady effort to keep life possible. The body never truly shuts off because life depends on constant maintenance work by many organs. Even in rest, circulation continues, breathing continues, filtering continues, signaling continues, and repair continues. The body remains quietly active through all states of wakefulness and sleep. Much of life is sustained by this unseen continuity. The heart does not need conscious instruction for each beat. It continues its rhythm without waiting for deliberate commands, allowing circulation to support the whole body at every moment. This automatic function is one of the great, quiet reliabilities of human life. It keeps going beneath thought, emotion, and rest. The lungs continue gas exchange continuously as long as breathing continues. Each breath is part of a larger, ongoing exchange that sustains tissues all over the body. Oxygen enters, carbon dioxide leaves, and the balance is renewed again and again. It is a gentle but constant cycle. The kidneys keep filtering blood day and night. They continue their work whether a person is active, resting, or asleep. This steady filtering helps preserve the chemical balance the rest of the body relies on. Their constancy is part of the body's quiet internal housekeeping. The liver continues processing nutrients and producing bile even when a person is resting. Rest on the outside does not mean inactivity on the inside. The liver remains part of the body's deep background work, helping manage internal chemistry and support digestion-related functions. Its activity is calm, continuous, and essential. The body's cells need a stable internal environment, and nearly every organ contributes in some way to providing it. The heart circulates, the lungs exchange gases, the kidneys filter, the skin protects, the nervous system coordinates, and the endocrine system signals. All of this work supports the conditions cells need in order to live. And as you let all of that settle gently into the background, it becomes easier to feel the human body not as noise, but as a quiet, faithful system always working, always balancing, always carrying life softly forward.